Music is a moral law. It gives soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and a charm and gaiety to life and to everything. Words from the philosopher Plato, and words to meditate on as we celebrate our music this month. Hello there. Welcome to this Sunday's edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. We have a wonderful show planned just for you. More after this break.
Jamaica's population is aging rapidly. Over 350,000 or 13.2% of Jamaicans are senior citizens. These individuals deserve our care and respect. Very often, our senior citizens are neglected, disregarded, and disrespected. It's time to act. A special select committee of the Senate is reviewing a motion proposing the creation of an Elderly Care and Protection Act to better safeguard the rights and dignity of our senior citizens. We invite you to share your suggestions and recommendations about what should be included in this act. Send your submission in writing to Clerk to the Houses, Gordon House, 81 Duke Street, Kingston, or email clark@japarliament.gov.jm. The deadline for submissions is February 15, 2025. Let's work together to protect and create a more inclusive and supportive Jamaica for our senior citizens.
Wills. Do you know what they are? Do you understand the importance of having one? It may seem like a morbid note to start on, but let's change the lens through which we view this conversation. It's not about the end that brings a will into force, but about the lives made easier by removing doubt about how one wants their assets shared among loved ones. And that's why understanding wills is our Get the Facts focus this week.
Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm Theodore Henry. Because death is an inevitable part of life, there are steps we can and should take to ensure our affairs are in order to lessen the burden on those left behind. In today's episode, we'll explore the significance of having a will and the crucial role played by the Administrator General's Department, AGD, before and after death. Joining us to shed light on this important topic is Karen Campbell-Basco, Deputy Administrator General at the AGD. Welcome to Get the Facts, Lady Basco.
Thank you for having me.
Campbell-Basco.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, so let's jump right into this. Now, most people have the answer to this question already, but I think you can answer it from a different perspective.
Okay, I try.
Why is it important to have a will in Jamaica?
Yes, it's very important to have a will, particularly because this is the only document that speaks for an individual after death. Some persons may make some arrangements prior to death. The challenge is we do not know when death will come, and so the ideal position is to have a will in place just in case. And when death comes, you will now have that document where we're now able to distribute your assets according to your wishes.
So will isn't old people thing?
No, not at all. As long as you are over the age of 18, it is believed that you have started to acquire assets, even if it's just that favorite tablet that you have or that phone, it has value. Wow. And so we encourage persons, once you've attained the age of 18, and that's our legal requirement, write your will, make your will, decide what's going to happen to those assets or those items that you have that might have sentimental value, probably jewelry that grandma left for you and your sister really wanted it. What do you want to have happen to that jewelry that is sentimental in value, might not dollar value, but you want to decide who gets it should you pass on.
Got it. So in my understanding, I don't think creating a will is just a tear out of paper out of my book and I say such and such and such. You mentioned legal requirements.
Yes.
What are those?
So there are some formalities. It's very simple to make the will. The legal requirements in terms of the paper is that, one, it must be in writing. It must be signed by the person.
Sorry, pardon me. It must be in writing, not typing.
Must be in writing. And writing could be computer generated,
Okay.
but it must come out of the computer.
Okay.
So we are not at this
Virtual.
stage yet where you're going to have it saved on the computer and probably use e-signatures. We're not there yet when it comes to wills.
Got it.
So you could type it on the computer, but it has to be printed and then later signed. You could also have your will in Braille. The law does allow for the will to be in Braille. So handwriting, typewriter, computer generated, or Braille.
Physical.
Yes, physical copy.
Right.
Doesn't matter what it's on. It could be the piece of paper from the book. We've seen wills on the back of a calendar that's 20 years dated.
I thought you were going to say a napkin. What
It
calendar
could be on the
is
napkin
just
as
up there as well? Okay.
I mean, they'd have to explain why a napkin as opposed to, but as long as it's legible, we can see what's happening, and the testator signed, and two persons also witness the signing of the testator.
Testator being?
The testator is the person who made the will.
Got it.
So once we can witness the signing, once we can confirm that he signed or she, and two persons, we call them witnesses, also witness the signing by the testator, and the testator also witnesses them sign the will as well. We would want to confirm that that is a valid will in terms of formality.
Right.
Further, for the person making the will, I mentioned earlier they need to at least have attained the age of 18. In Jamaica, you're an adult as at 18 upwards.
Right.
We also want you to have the necessary, let's call it mental capacity. Must be of sound mind, sound body. So for example, if somebody is ill, not well, and that illness is causing them to have bouts of probably dizziness, not understanding what's happening, awareness, the times when they're out of it, so to speak, it's not the time for them to make the will.
Right.
Because anybody could now come and contest to say, during the period when the will was made, I highly doubt the person had the mental capacity.
We've had these challenges in
Yes.
the news.
Yes.
You know, a person was taken advantage of. And
Yes.
Okay.
Further to, the will must not have been made further to undue influence or fraud. So if somebody, and I'm going the extreme now, holds a gun to somebody's head and say, sign this, which is what they're purporting to be the person's will, if it's later borne out that it was through that undue influence, it is not a valid will.
What about illegal things? Like I bequeath my 100 pounds of
Right.
cocaine to...
So we cannot, after death, we cannot honor wishes that are illegal. So if, for example, you bequeath or you give or you devise an asset that is not yours to give, we cannot honor that wish if you didn't own it.
Right.
If you are asking us to treat with crops that are illegal in nature in terms of them being grown, you don't have the proper license,
Yes.
then no, we're going to have to get the police involved to destroy those crops.
Got it.
So no, we can't conduct illegal activities even if it was your greatest wish, sole wish. We wouldn't be able to carry it out if we were the executor.
Understood. Now, I think this one is going to be very interesting to our viewers. So, I die. I've created the will. How do I know that it will be executed the way I wrote it?
Well, the challenge is once you're dead, you really don't know what's happening.
Right.
But then that's why we say put things in place from early. And one of the things I would encourage is the person that you're going to appoint to take charge of your affairs, and that person is called your executor. Choose somebody whom, one, you trust and you verily believe has the necessary capacity to execute and carry out your wishes.
Trust.
And so we encourage that you use persons who they themselves probably have an interest in the will, because you can use a beneficiary named in the will. And so it is in their best interest as well to carry out the duties of an executor
Right.
to the best of their capacity. Responsible person. So while it is you could name anybody as your executor, make sure that person is responsible. You would have seen them operate their own business, for example, or just how they go about their day-to-day life. It's an indicator that they are responsible and will carry out the actions.
We're going to go to a break, but one thing I'm getting from it, this isn't a sentimental decision, is it, for your executor?
We would encourage that you do not use emotions to make those types of decisions. I agree, yes.
Thank you so much. We're at a break, but please stay with us. We're not done yet with the AGD, and we'll be right back.
Want to know the law pertaining to renting a house? What about the procedure if you're arrested? Or what is defined as corruption? Then click on the Ministry of Justice website. It has information on every law passed in Jamaica. The House of Parliament portal also has the more recent year's pieces of legislation. The sites are easy to search and the files are downloadable. Make access to justice your business. Know your rights.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. We are discussing the importance of having a will and the role of the Administrator General's Department with Karen Campbell-Basco, Deputy Administrator General. Lady Campbell-Basco, let's jump right in. You've given us so much about the will, the legality of it, physical copies, the testator must sign, they must be witnessed by two people, can't do illegal things, can't give away things that aren't yours. It has been fascinating thus far, but what I'm very curious about is how does the AGD factor into my will?
Okay. Well, as the statutory body that's primarily charged with responsibility of managing estates, particularly those of persons who died without a will, and trusts, particularly as well for persons who have passed on, we have a mandate to also assist with educating the public. And so part of our PR campaign is to encourage persons to plan for death. So estate planning and will making is part of the estate planning process.
Right.
So that's where we start in terms of encouraging. While an individual may name the Administrator General as the executor in their estate, because the law does allow
The person to carry out the...
Yes, to ask the AG to carry out the activities after they have passed on, there's no requirement that it must be the AG. And as I mentioned in the earlier segment, a competent person, responsible enough, is good.
Right.
But if they do name the AG, one thing I'll point out, the AG acts alone if they are executor, so no other person can co-executor with the Administrator General, and that's by law. If we are named executor, then we take the estate and we take it through from the beginning, which is to confirm, get the grant, determine the assets, and then pay the debts and funeral expenses if that has not yet been taken care of, and then distribute what's left to the persons who are named in the will as beneficiaries. If it is that we are not named in the will, then we can assist persons who may need guidance to determine next steps if they themselves have been named as executor or they are beneficiaries to a will and no action has yet been taken in that estate.
Got it. Do you find in your position, you find that people are afraid to make wills?
Oh, yes.
Feel like dead people to
Yes, I've heard persons say, if I make the will, I'm going to die. If I make the will, then I'm going to come and take away my land. If I make the will, then my son is going to kick me out of the house if they put the son down as the beneficiary. So persons do have a little bit of a phobia about will making. But as you mentioned earlier, death is certain. What we do not know is when death will come.
Right.
And if it is, we want to ensure that the proper persons or the persons we want to benefit from what we've worked hard for, then the will is the ideal document that will assist with that. Not the only, but the ideal.
But the ideal.
Yes.
So paint a picture for us then. What happens if I die intestate?
So if you die intestate, and that's dying without a will, then you leave it to the law to decide who gets what. And when I say the law, there's currently legislation that dictates an individual dies without a will or without a valid will. And we're now going to distribute to, they have it in categories, primary beneficiaries, and if there's nobody in the primary, then the secondary. For example, within the primary beneficiary group, if you die without a will, it's your spouse, children that will first step up.
Legal spouse or...
Well, in Jamaica, it has to be somebody who, one, either was married at the time, and the formalities of marriage, the end result is usually a marriage certificate. So if you present a marriage certificate, that's valid, and it will now confirm that you are the spouse for the deceased person. If, however, there is no marriage certificate, but the person who remains alive from that union can prove to a competent court that while the deceased person was alive, he was single, let us say it was a male who died, The female was also single, and they cohabitated as though they were man and wife.
Right.
So they lived in the same house, they had the same joint account, they managed the affairs of the children together. That's where their primary residence was in terms of living with each other, things that are usual and common for husband and wife. If they can prove that to a court, and that was for 5 years or more.
5 years or more?
Yes.
Okay.
Then the court would declare what we call a common law spouseship. And then the person can benefit as though they were legally married.
Got it, got it. And AGD steps into intestate situations, or it's referred to them?
We must step in when the person who died intestate died leaving a minor, and that's anybody under the age of 18 years.
Okay.
We can step in, so it's optional if there are no minors. But if we find that there are competent persons who are available to carry on the management of the estate,
Right.
then we may give them what we call a certificate of the Administrator General, consenting to them applying to the court for a grant and conducting the estate administration process.
Grant.
The grant.
Is what?
Okay. Let me go back a little step though.
Yes, please.
How does the AG get involved if somebody dies without a will? We have to be notified. And notification is usually somebody coming to our department and filling out what's called a form of particulars. That's where they declare that Tom Jones probably have passed on, give us some very detailed information about Tom Jones, as much as they have it, because anybody can report this death.
Okay.
And then assist us in getting the necessary documents to prove that he has died, to prove the relations, particularly for the minors and any other. Now, to start the process of administering an estate of a deceased person, we need authority to do that.
Okay.
And the grant is what will give us that authority. So a grant, there are several types of grant. There's a grant of probate, and that is where the person died with a will. Where there is no will, we refer to the grant as a grant of administration. And it's really a document that is primarily issued by the court that allows an individual to take charge of the affairs of a deceased person. And I said primarily by the court because in 2015, the Parliament of the day enacted legislation that allows the Administrator General to now issue her own grants in estates where the person died without a will and they're minors.
Got it. We've gotten so many facts, and I feel like we should have another one of these, but we're at the tail end of this particular interview, and I'm just wondering, what would you say directly to our audience watching? What's on your heart about will making, estate planning? Last few seconds.
What I'll say to persons in terms of will making, make your will. You do not know when death will come. And the will is what will dictate what should happen to your assets after you have passed on. Will making is just one aspect, though, of estate planning. You could decide before death to do the transfers that you wish to. You could probably do a co-ownership between you and your spouse in respect of land. You could do that with your motor vehicle as well. What about the bank accounts? You could name persons on your bank accounts who you trust and you verily believe that they will not go in and take out the funds, but you can give proper instructions to the bank. But certainly, the will speaks for you after death. You can even indicate what you want to have happen in respect of your burial, which plot, which burial ground, whether you want to be cremated. The will is the only document that will speak for you after death. So make your will. Make it today. Make it now.
Yep. And as you and I had discussed, this is a big part of social stability.
Yes.
Making Jamaica a place with less squabbling, less problems,
Yes.
and things go as they ought. This has been Get the Facts. Our guest was Karen Campbell-Basco, Deputy Administrator General at the Administrator General's Department. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'm Theodore Henry. Take care.
One good thing about music, when it hits, you feel no pain. Well said by the king of reggae, Bob Marley. It's Reggae Month and we are celebrating our musical legends and those drawn by the rhythm. Here now is a story of the unwavering Richie Spice.
I see myself as the voice of the people without voice.
Change your ways now, young juvenile, change your ways. Whoa, you better be today, go change your ways. Some type of liberty, it not gonna wait. No.
Richie Spice heralds himself as a catalyst for change for the voiceless. But first, he had to find his own voice. One of 11 children, that was not always easy to do. So, he did what most younger children do, follow in the pathways fashioned by their older siblings. Born in the community of Rockall, St. Andrew, the singer is the younger brother to Pliers of the duo Shakademus and Pliers.
I know this little girl, her name is Maxine. Her beauty's like a bunch of roses.
As well as the chill singer, Spanner Banner.
If there's trouble at home and you can't take the pain, boy, baby, come chill with me.
And I sit and watch them play the music over the years, you know, and it has inspired, you know, and then it becomes a part of me.
Richie remembers the trials he endured as an aspiring musician.
We went to studio, we went with me, we went to record and, you know, producer send you back, you're frustrated, you sleep overnight at studio.
There were a lot of ups and downs, but
one day, my brother Spanner Banner brought me to Tough Gang studio and I met this gentleman by the name of Clive Hunt. He was working there with a next virgin by the name of Computer Paul, playing a rhythm, but I was just there at the time, but I wasn't the one who was supposed to. The time wasn't for me, it was for our next artist, but the next artist never showed up at the time.
his brother told him to go into the studio booth and sing. That was when he belted out a song called
Grooving My Girl.
Grooving my girl, whoa, I can see the angel in your eyes.
Grooving My Girl now was a song which mean, you know, whenever time I used to go to studio, you know, I didn't have to say, oh, my brother is Pliers and bigger brother is Panabana. Grooving My Girl is a song that give me a run, which mean I could say, go to a producer and say, I did this song, you know, and say, oh, yeah.
And while Jamaica was grooving, the international reggae scene was waiting.
Watch those places you walk and mind the way you talk. Watch out for the vampires who will sneak up in the dark. Watch out for the big time thief who claim say that them smart. But I bring in the crack and the gun fi come mess up the youths them heart.
Earth Around Red is a song which mean, you know, catapult I and a more international vibration, you know, while linking up with Fifth Element and TV and, you know, get a little management behind and a little strength. You know, it catapult I a little farther in the music industry, yeah?
They say that imitation is a form of flattery, and Richie is an example in this regard.
Everybody starts from somewhere. You know, if you check the artists, most artists pattern somebody before them find them true inner self. Yeah, when them find them true inner self now, then you find that them come out and express themselves, express them true self.
Incidentally, the younger brother is enjoying more musical success than his brothers in whose footsteps he followed.
Life is a gamble, but it's a game I wanna play with you. Yeah, yeah. I know it's a gamble, but I know I'm gonna lose my love for you. No.
He recounts that his other influences grew from the interest of another brother who worked at a radio station back in the day.
He normally bring home used to have a turntable. Sunday morning, he normally play the songs like the LP them and the 45 and thing. You know, normally play people like Bob Marley, Burning Spear, the Gregory Isaac, you talk about CC Cocotti, but Beresford Man, those type of people. So we grow under the influence of those music. Those music grows up as a little child coming up, yeah? And we keep it up until today.
Once upon a time when the kids need to play, they used to go to the park. Why? Mom always says, son, go take up a book. Now they say, take up your tablet.
Reggae music often serves as a voice for the oppressed and a catalyst for change. This symbolic gesture can be found in the brown-skinned artist's work.
Whatever we write and put out there, you know, that the younger generation going to listen still, you know, and we'll keep it that way and keep it on a moderate vibration, which means, you know, acceptable to the world.
And how does he feel about the non-Jamaicans partaking in the music?
Artists come here from Europe and you see a gentleman might rise them and say, yes, why the music gone? No music not out Jamaica again. It's done now. The music cannot leave Jamaica because Jamaica is the grassroots of reggae music as the tree, the birth. So it was birth here, man, so it cannot leave. And we're glad when the people then come and take a little piece of it and share it and go spread it bigger.
Richie admits he's been all over the globe and has seen how significant the musical reach of reggae is.
People who speak English, people who don't speak our language, Latin, whatever they speak, you know, I mean, people still understand, people sing with you word to word, you know, and show that they appreciate love the music and the appreciation of the whole vibration of the beat, yeah?
So, what's next for Richie Spice?
The journey continues.
Of course it does. The artist released his latest album in 2023 and is enjoying the success of his 14-track label.
Internet boys, internet girls, living in a digital world. Internet boys, internet girls, them call it the modern world.
Hey Conroy, what do you love most about being an artist?
What I like the most about being a visual artist is that it allows me to be myself. What about you?
I love the fact that I'm able to express myself without using words, and I can let people get a glimpse of what goes on in my mind.
If you are someone, you know, has a passion for creating, whether it's fine arts, web designing, makeup artistry,
Or even pottery, that's something we don't see every day. Don't let others stop you from going after your dreams. We all only get one chance at life. Make sure you live for you.
And with that, we've come to the end of today's show. To catch a repeat of this or any other, feel free to log on to our website, gis.gov.jm. Until next time, I'm Adrian Atkinson. All good.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.